Today is January 1, 2024. Happy New Year. Unconventional episode this week and a really fun one at that. Let's talk rumors, pitching, platoons, breakouts, and basements. You're listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Yinz, guys. Thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast, where we talk all about them Pittsburgh Pirates and that. My name is Josh, and I am joined here in our parents' basement again by my brother Jake in the flesh.
Let's go. It's good to be home, man.
Yeah, so this is going to be maybe interesting because I had my Surface here ready to do the video and the whole 9 yards. And I got a black screen and nothing working, so I don't know if we'll have video for this or not.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see.
So we are recording it on the camera, and I don't know if it's going to translate over to video or if we're just going to do audio. But either way, we'll have something.
Yeah,
and
you'll probably see a dancing picture or something on YouTube, maybe.
Oh, I could probably figure something out, or I don't put the time into it.
Or you're looking at us right now, like, dude, we're looking at you.
Yeah,
we're fine.
I can do like a
Everything's
picture.
Good. Yeah,
you know what I mean. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, one of the things that's funny about this is when you take this setup and you travel with it a little bit, you also lose some things like notes and. So I have my phone here and I'll be looking through some things, but it's been a week. So you've had a busy week this week, right? Traveling.
15 hours in a car with 2 dogs.
Yeah, that's your fault.
Is it my fault?
You decided to do that.
Yeah, but did I have a choice?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying here. All right, let's not throw anybody under the bus. Yeah, and we had family at our house all week too this week. So as far as like between working and spending time with family, this is like one of those weeks. And I think a lot of people are kind of in that same boat. They're like, we're not, we get it. Mm-hmm. It's that time of year. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's been pretty fun, cool week. But it's not without stuff to talk about.
Right.
Wish it was about signings. Wish it was about Pirates actually doing something.
Wish it was about us signing people.
Well, right. Yeah. There were other signings happening around the league. Some
trades.
It's hard to know like what is actually applicable like to our situation, right?
Right.
So Lucas Giolito signs with the Red Sox. It's hard to know if we were ever even in on that.
Right.
You knew he was going to get money. A lot of people are kind of under the impression that he is another one of those reclamation project type guys, but he didn't quite get that money. He got somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. If he's the Giolito for the White Sox last year, yeah, let's go, $20 million. But if he's the one with the Angels and the Guardians, then you're saying, okay, maybe the 16 range. So he gets 18 with a buyout of I think $1.5 million, depending on who declines and who declines the option for the next year. So he's guaranteed 19 or 19 and a half. It could go up to 38 and a half or something like that. I forget. Yeah. So anyway, were the Pirates ever in the ballpark for somebody like that? I don't know. Right. I don't know if they even checked in on him. He was a name that I had talked about.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's ever been a realistic thing.
Yeah. We don't know if it was on Sherrington's tongue.
No.
No,
and do we ever really? Do we ever really know?
Right.
It rarely leaks, and we've heard a lot of that, and I think we've talked about that before. The leaks, they come from agents; they don't come from GMs.
Right.
And so, no, Sherrington's not going to leak anything. But I've said this before about agents. There's no like they say, and I've even said this. I just hope that we get announced in some things like we're interested.
Right.
Right. But it doesn't help anybody to say the Pirates are interested.
Right. Well, I mean, at least we're getting talked about in the Yariel Rodriguez,
Yeah.
Cuban kid
Guy.
guy.
Yeah,
He's like
not
20.
Yeah, he's like
mid-20s.
26, 27. So, yeah, and there is that. So what was the latest? The Toronto's ahead.
Toronto's leading the way on that.
Were they one of the three?
We assumed. I would assume.
I'm gonna just keep opening
because
stuff up.
they were in the bid for Yamamoto, so I mean they're obviously willing to pay some money,
Right.
which kind of scares me on that front. Like, how into it are we? Or yeah,
Right.
are we getting the green light to spend money? Probably not. So
That's a whole other thing, right?
right,
Okay, so it looks like, according to this, Astros, Blue Jays, Pirates, and Yankees were in for it. We were looking for starters.
mm-hmm.
Oh, wait. Here it is. Boston, Pittsburgh, and Toronto have interest in Rodriguez as a starter. Cincinnati, San Diego, and the Yankees prefer him as a reliever. So you were like, okay, we're in the better half of that.
right,
If you want to get him.
right.
If you want to get him, you're in the better half of that. If you're somebody who's out there who says, I think he's a reliever too, then you're not in the better half of that. If that's what your, fan evaluation is of Yariel Rodriguez. So I guess that's fair to say. But if you're saying you want to get him, which you're looking for rotation help,
Right.
there's a trade out there. This would not be a trade.
No.
So let's think about that for a minute. You've got Mitch Keller at the top. You need a number 2. I'm not gonna cave on that. You need a number 2. Martin Perez is not your number 2.
No.
Then you've got Perez, Gonzalez, and then that 5th spot. If that's Yariel Rodriguez, you've just blocked an opportunity.
Right.
Well, did you? Because is Marco Gonzalez going to get one necessarily? You know what I'm saying? So now he's kind of in that 5 spot of like, you got to earn it in a way. You know what I mean? I would say that Yariel Rodriguez would have a better shot to make that rotation than Marco Gonzalez. If Quinn Priester comes in and deals, you might say, we're going to go this route. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Gonzalez has proven to be effective out of the bullpen. Probably more effective.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you're still worried about him and his health and everything like that too. So there's more with Gonzalez that like, even if I sit here and say, okay, the rotation right now, I'm still holding out for number 2, where I'm not going to budge on that.
Right.
We're saying we've got Martin Perez, Marco Gonzalez, and then one of Roansy Contreras, Luis Ortiz, Quinn Priester, Bailey Falter, right? Let's throw him in there. And then that's probably it, right? So they're all going to be competing for a starting role. I would say those 4 initially, right? I'm not going to throw Jared Jones and Paul Skeens in there yet.
Right.
But if you're saying that it's those guys fighting for that last spot, you could technically say they're all fighting for the last 2, because if Marco Gonzalez is no guarantee,
Right.
you may have Roansy and Bailey Falter.
Yeah. Gosh.
That was about perfect timing.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, guys. I hope that doesn't come through. There's pros and cons to recording in a basement, and we'll leave it at that. Maybe that's a good cue to say, I think that's about enough of that conversation. This starting rotation. Well, where it's not going to be it. That's not all the starting rotation we're going to talk about. But anyway, there are still, so, I mean, we just rolled right into the next thing, which is the rumors, right?
Yeah.
And that's all we have to go off of. And so Yariel Rodriguez is one of the first things that's kind of on the board there, is saying this is a rumor that they're interested. This is something that they're looking to do. All of that. That's all good. Trying to catch up here. Man, that's all I really have. I will say about the Giolito thing, just to be funny, because I talked about this on one before. How did he not sign with the Braves?
Because the Braves, no one really knows what they're doing this offseason.
No.
They traded for Chris Sale.
Well, so Giolito signs with the Red Sox, and they get Chris Sale. But let's go back to the fact that Max Fried and Giolito went to high school together.
Right.
And Ronaldo Lopez, did I get that name right? I think so. They signed him too. And they've never played on an MLB team without each other. Lopez and Giolito. Everywhere they've been traded together. Even to the point that when they both were on waivers from San Diego, Cleveland picked them both up. So like they've never not played on an MLB team that's not been together.
Yeah.
It's wild.
That is wild.
And I actually thought that when the Braves went after him, they were like, well, now we got Giolito.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that's me injecting a lot of things, just trying to be funny, but
it's just interesting to me that they would take Chris Sale and give up Vaughn Grissom. Like,
yeah,
he was their number one prospect.
Was he number one?
No, I mean, I don't know if he was, because he's probably played enough to not be a prospect at this point. But at one point he was their number one prospect. When Dansby left, they were like, Vaughn Grissom's going to enter in, and then he just played himself out of it.
He didn't do good?
He didn't do very well. They tried putting him in the outfield. That didn't go well.
Well,
so,
thank you.
You know.
I'm over here saying didn't do good. He's not going to be on here, right? Because he's traded.
Right.
So now I got to look at the Red Sox. So he's not on the list anymore. Like you said, he's probably put in enough time.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good player.
Who's been playing short for them?
They had is it Arias?
Oh, okay.
Arceus?
That's right. Arcia, yeah.
Arcia, yeah.
41 games, 23 in 22, and then 23 games last year. I mean, he's good. 287 so far in 64 games, 5 homers, on base of 339. He's got an OPS plus of 105. It was down a little bit last year, but a 119 that first year. So maybe last year was a little bit of a down year for him. But
I think it's been the defense.
Oh, okay.
They didn't quite think he was ready to handle shortstop every day.
Yeah.
So then they put him in the outfield. And it's just
no shortstop, second base. Well, they might have had him in the outfield in the minors.
Oh, I thought they were
Shortstop, second base so far in the majors.
okay.
But I'm not gonna go over, but
Right.
It's just interesting to me that Chris Sale's the guy, you know what I mean? What?
No. I'm hearing sound effects.
Oh, still. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to block them out.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. The Braves have been the trickiest team, I think.
Yeah.
They're not going to pay a bunch of money this time.
Right.
Because the Red Sox are sending over a lot of money. So
that's fair.
At least there's something there. But anyway, Braves probably should be, because you can't just keep winning a bunch and not winning.
Right.
So you got the Braves.
Took me a minute for that to register what you just said.
And then you got the Braves and the Dodgers both kind of trying to say, we're tired of just making it to the playoffs as the top 2 teams in the National League and then having other teams roll through us.
Right.
Wild card teams at that. It hasn't even been the Central Division leader getting past them. It's been the wild card teams that are beating them. So I think they're both kind of on this mission. One of them will fall short, at least one of them.
Sure.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
But that's what's really funny about this is that, I don't know if Chris Sale keeps pace with what the Dodgers are doing right now.
No, it does not.
But I would think that their lineup's deeper than the Dodgers lineup is. I know we keep talking about super team. They have more superstars than anybody else. But the back half of that lineup is, it's not the Braves.
No. The Braves are a complete lineup. Their lineup's scary.
We look at this stuff and we try to relate this to, hey, I will be the first to say, and I'm not trying to do too much here, but I'll be the first to say, I don't hate this lineup that the Pirates are going out there with. I don't hate this defensive, this defense that the Pirates are going out there with. I still see a lot of growth that could happen. This could be and then I look at a team like that in perspective and say, oh, geez, you know what I mean? Like, we got to get hot. We got to get that much better. And granted, all those guys could play poorly, but it does kind of put things in perspective a little bit and make you think like how difficult this really is and how excited are you really in a bubble. We can look at our players and say, I feel pretty good about this guy and this guy. I think this guy could work in this situation. You try to put it all together and say, this might not be that bad of a team again.
Right.
It's certainly not a 90-win team, but it could be a team that's around 500, which is, I talk about the rebuild all the time. 2024 should be the first year that you get to that 500 spot. You jump over it just a little bit, 1 or 2 games, whatever. That's the standard.
Yeah.
That has been set by so many teams. And then in 25, you take that leap. Because now you say, which guys worked out to get us there?
Sure.
And you got O'Neal Cruz hitting 30 homers. You're like, all right, we're good. You got Key who's breaking out. You say, all right, we're good. We got Reynolds. I mean, those two are signed, so you got that. If Jack takes another step forward, you say, we're good. Granted, I think that's eventually going to be in right field. Right? I think this year, I'm fine with him in center. I know that there's a lot of talk about that, but right now, he's the best option we have. He's going to give you league average defense in center field. Eventually, I'd like to see that bat go to the corner, but you really got to look at the personnel. There's not anybody really. I mean, it's going to have to be a free agent or a trade to get center field, right? And anybody who just yelled Luis Robert at their speakers, stop. You're not getting him. We don't have the prospect capital to get him. Because in order to get him, you have to overpay. It's the same conversation that we had with fans of other teams for 2 years about Brian Reynolds. Listen, you're not getting Brian Reynolds unless you pay us too much for Brian Reynolds.
Right.
He's not worth that much. You're right. But we have him right now. So in order to get him off of us, you have to overpay with players.
Right.
It's the same with Luis Robert. They've come out and said that several times. It's the same with Dylan Cease too. What they ask for from Cincinnati is too much for a guy who, to be honest with you, I don't like the walks. His whip is high. There's too many guys on base. I don't like it. I'm not willing to give up too much for Dylan Cease.
Yeah.
And I'm on record saying, let's go to the Marlins. So here's where our conversation of rumors goes to the trades, right?
Right.
I like the Marlins as a trade partner. And the reason I like it is because they need major league help. And that's what we can give them in right field. And that's why I think it's the perfect setup. Now, if another team comes in with a better right fielder, I get it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But they're looking for somebody to hit against left-handed pitching. At least they should be. That'd be the smart thing to be looking for because that guy can't hit lefties.
Yeah.
And he's good enough to hit righties.
Right.
Maybe it's Olivares. Maybe we just do that thing, go right through. I don't care. But for my money, you get more value out of Connor Joe. He also gives you first base. Now, granted, that takes away first base from our team. So Triolo is going to have to step up, which a lot of people want to give that to him anyway.
Right. I'm okay with that. I mean, it was a platoon spot because I think I still feel that his value is higher when he's playing more positions.
Yeah.
I think he's capable of playing every position on the infield.
Right. Let's go ahead and say it again. Even shortstop.
Yes.
Let's see him play short. I want to see
I'm
it.
okay with that. But even if not, you can
if
always slide Peggy or Gonzalez.
Yep.
It would work.
Yeah, it
would work. And I wouldn't hate any of them playing shortstop for a game or two. You know, the break games.
Yep.
You know, Cruz's days off because let's just hope and pray he doesn't get hurt again. You know what I mean? Because that was our biggest blow last year, in my opinion. But
it's fair.
But yeah, I think Connor Joe I think he's more of a professional hitter. I know I've said a lot against Connor Joe.
More on that later.
Yeah, more on that later. But I've also been with you on the fact that, hey, I'm allowed to be wrong. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Connor Joe's better than I thought he was going to be. Mm-hmm. He's a professional at bat every time he walks to the plate.
31 doubles last year. I mean, he played more than what he typically would.
Right.
And I think you're going to see some things. Some of the things about his game could be better.
Sure.
Had he not, nice job. Had he not played that much, as much as he did, as many as at bats as he did.
Sure.
He's a better hitter. He's more valuable. Those kind of things. But there is a little bit of where I was going with that. Yeah, 31 doubles still. Like he still put up, good numbers. That tied our team with the lead. 3 guys. And so, yeah, I mean, there's value there. If you want to get a good starting pitcher, you have to give up good players.
Right.
And it depends on what they're looking for. If you go to the White Sox, guys, I'm telling you, they're going to want to grab Termarr Johnson, Bubba Chandler, and Solomito, all for Dylan Cease. Maybe even Jared Jones and swap one of those guys, something like that, to get a little bit closer if that's what they want. But they're gonna rob you. And while I'm like, yeah, you got to give that up, I'm okay giving them up. I'm not going to sit here and say that I need to keep all of them. There are a few guys that I don't want to get rid of. And I'm not comfortable, obviously, Paul Skeens.
Right.
I'm not comfortable giving up Termarr Johnson right now. I don't know enough about Peguero and Gonzalez yet to know that I got one for a long time.
Right.
And if Tamar's going to be here in a couple of years, then I might need him to be here in a couple of years. You know what I mean? And he seems like, right now, the best hitter we have in our system.
Yeah.
And I'm just not, I don't want to see that blow up somewhere else if it's going to.
Right.
I'd like to see that one longer.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then on top of that, I am super high right now on Bubba Chandler. He spent his first season last year without hitting. And I think this year it gets even better. And I would like to keep a hold of him. I'm very clear about my left-handed favoritism as far as pitching. So Solomito would be tough for me too. I could do it if I'm getting the right arm back.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But to me, it would be a little bit of a, yeah, I'd like to see him a little longer too, because he's the lefty. He's the closest lefty we have right now. And so that you've got 2 of them out there right now, and we're sitting here, we're having the conversation about possibly Jesus Luzardo, right? Let's get into the Miami rumors. There's Edward Cabrera and there's Jesus Luzardo, which have been said that they're willing to trade because they have a surplus at that position. They've got guys they're ready to call up. So they've got guys, right?
Right.
And they're no strangers to money either. So they're going to deal the guys who are closer to arbitration and let the younger guys come through the way that they will. And if you get Luzardo, you're like, yeah, but then that gives us 3 left-handed starting pitchers in our rotation. Maybe 4. Could you imagine Bailey Falter actually beats those guys out and you got 4 of them?
No, I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah, I get it. and I'm sitting here saying, yeah, what's the problem? Because they're favored at PNC Park, but also let's remember that Martin Perez and Marco Gonzalez are gone after this year. So you get a longer term lefty, but also that's where the Solomito thing comes in too, is, man, I'd like to just keep him around a couple more years and you got that lefty already if he's going to work out, you know what I'm saying? But if you're getting the right guy, if Luzardo's the guy, I don't know that I wouldn't include Solomito if I had to get him.
Yeah.
Because you're getting a lefty who's going to be here for 3-4 years.
For a while.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's the thing where I'm like, I think I'm okay with that one. Typically, I'd like to send Harrington because he's further off. I feel like that. I don't think that the Marlins would want a Jared Jones.
Right.
Because he's too close.
They already got that.
They've already got that. So they want somebody a little further away. Now, if they don't like Harrington and they like Solomito, which Solomito still, he's just into AA. He'll start in AA this year. You're still looking at 2 more years. But even if they was like, yeah, but we really like Jared Jones, we don't like Harrington, or we don't like one of these other guys, then you might say, no, we'll just take him and then we'll just trade again from our surplus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they'll just figure that out because they're trying to get their offense better. They're trying to get better on that side of the ball. And I think that no matter what it takes, they're gonna get the best guys they can get out of it.
Yeah. And,
But I want to throw in Bay.
mm-hmm.
He's got 3 options. I think that's valuable. He's also very fast. I think that's valuable. The rest of his game they can work on.
Yeah, and I still say if he could just not play multiple positions, just stick to a position, just worry about that because he's not that good at any of them. So just go somewhere where they can say, "Hey, you're going to be an outfielder," because I honestly think that's his best bet. Is
You
to
think
just
his best
transfer
bet's the
to an
outfield?
outfield. I mean,
We talked about
that speed. He's
Yep.
going to have range.
he's got
he
the
can make
playmaking
up.
ability.
Yep.
It's all a matter of, like, we talked about terrible jumps, terrible routes. Those are teachable skills.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem like the Pirates are all in on making that happen.
Right.
And if they're not going to do that, I don't know. It's going to have to be an all-in effort to sell him out to learn center
And quite
field.
frankly, we don't have the room for him in our outfield.
Not right now, I guess you could say. Well, because offensively he's not good enough.
Because, offensively, we have bats that we need to play in our outfield.
If you trade Connor Joe, now I know base splits are weird. He actually does have some success against lefties. I don't think that's the way you want to go with it because he also swings and misses all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But could he not beat out Palacios if he was able to run down balls in the outfield? You know what I'm saying? Right now. And actually, that's one of our questions. Well, you know what? We've got some questions. Let's go to one. Because we're basically there.
Yeah.
We're kind of segueing ourselves into these things, right? So one of the questions that we have is from Yark. As the roster sits right now, how do the outfield and first base platoons shape up as far as numbers and production? So as far as numbers and productions is one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk numbers as far as like playing time. If you start with Reynolds is in left, we're done.
Right.
And then you say, because of who we have right now, let's just say Jackson center field, we're done. When you're looking in right field right now, you have Joshua Palacios,
Mm-hmm.
you have Connor Joe, and you have Olivares.
I mean,
so they're not all making the team, by the way.
right.
Somebody, and Cannon Smith and Jigba is also in this mix now that we're saying.
Andrew McCutchen. And
Andrew McCutchen, who I think is still majority. I think he's mostly just helping.
Yeah.
If Olivares does not make this team, there's McCutchen's playing time in right field. If Connor Joe's at first,
Mm-hmm.
McCutchen's in right against a lefty, right? And that seems to be, all right, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
The problem comes in is if you go into spring and CSN and Palacios, neither one are grabbing a hold of a position. If they don't, the platoon is gone.
Right.
So now who's playing where? Because that opens up the option of Sawinski being in right. And if Bay would show up in center, this is where I was getting,
Mm-hmm.
then you actually could say that Bay could beat out Palacios for an outfield spot if he was selling out to learn center field.
Yeah.
And CSN, right? So there's a little bit of situation there where it does open up for him. I've been critical of him in the outfield, very critical.
Rightly so.
But if he sells out for that, those two skills that he did not have are teachable.
Mm-hmm.
They're learnable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Running routes, reading balls are things that you can learn. That is not just a natural gift. It's not like an arm strength. It's not like the ability to make the extra play, which he already has.
Right.
Unfortunately for him, it's making up for his mistakes. But if he cannot make mistakes, imagine the dude can dive for a ball.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if I think outfield is his best bet because of
Right.
all those things you just said.
In infield, he's shown he can dive for a ball, but then not be able to throw it afterwards.
Right.
His arm has actually been a little bit favorable in the outfield. A little bit of a running start. You don't have to make that like double play ball that he doesn't do well. And so, yeah, I think I'm with you there. I think now that we're talking off season and learn a position, yeah, I could see Bay working out in the outfield probably more so than at second base.
Yeah.
Give him a little bit of range. I mean, he cut off O'Neal Cruz on that ground ball that first day in Cincinnati, and I thought, and they gave the guy a hit was the biggest problem I had with it. He did that twice to the shortstop, and both times they gave the guy a hit. And I'm like, those were both errors.
Yeah.
I think Bay made about 4 errors that they counted as hits last year. But anyway. So really the metrics could even be worse. But either way, if you kept Bay around, it does open up some abilities. I was just talking last night. We were talking about Connor Joe and the possibility of him being traded to Miami and what that looks like and how some people were like, I don't really want to get rid of that. I don't think Tellez gets us 110 games. So I looked it up. The Pirates last year faced, for righties and lefty starters, 100 and I'm going to try to get this right, 108 righties and 54 lefties. Does that add up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's right. So that's what it was. Locked in. We're going with it. So Tellez needs to give us 108 games. Maybe 120 if you count coming in for pinch hits and things like that.
Sure.
But essentially, if he only starts against righties, then 110 games is a pretty decent pocket for him to be in.
Right.
The question is, are you ready to go with Triolo for 50 of them? You know what I'm saying? At first base. Like that seems to be a lot. So then the question comes in, well, how do you do that with Connor Joe? Because let's say Olivares doesn't make this team again and McCutcheon's not able to help out in right field and you have Connor Joe. Well, now all of a sudden Connor Joe is in right field and Triolo's back at first anyway.
Right.
So there are, I guess one of the things is there are a lot of options and that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, depth is key, right?
If you trade Connor Joe, you do limit some of that because Triolo has to step up now because Kutch and Olivares are not options to come in and play first base.
Right.
So you do kind of step a little bit into, I don't know if, even though Joe might get you the guy, I don't know if that's the guy you want to trade. So I'm looking at this saying, I'm okay getting rid of him because it's fair for both teams. I think when you go into a trade, a lot of people are trying to see how they can like get the other team and win the trade.
Right.
A winning trade is one that works for both teams.
Right.
That's a real winning trade.
Yeah.
If you want people to trade with you, then make trades that they liked to make too.
Right.
And everybody always says, don't trade with the Rays. Right. And so like, you don't want them to not work out.
Somebody put on Twitter the other day, it was like something about the Rays are interested in your guy. Don't trade him. Just figure out why they liked him and make him better.
Yeah. I mean, figure something and don't take the guy they're willing to give you is the other thing.
Right.
That, you know what I mean? Because he's probably, I mean, if it's Randy Arozarena, you know, you're probably going to be all right, but you know what I'm saying? Like they've traded away, like Willie Adames has worked out really well for the Brewers. So it's not necessarily always the case that you're going to get a guy who's Chris Archer or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. But the idea is that you want it to be fair. And in order for me to feel like that trade is fair to get Luzardo, it has to be Connor Joe. I don't think Olivares gets it done unless you up your minor leagues, like add another player.
Right.
Then you're throwing in like a Yordani De Los Santos or Shaylin Polanco or something like that. And I know that there's some guys out there to be like, hey, whoa, let's pump the brakes a little bit. We're not giving 5 players for one. You know what I mean? And so like, say what you want. They're going to know what they're asking for. We're all just making stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we're doing. And some people like Cabrera, that 2-seamer that goes like 700 feet to the right. You know what I'm saying? So like you don't go with the lefty there. I don't know if the question is, I don't know if he's worth more or worth less than Luzardo. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Maybe the tools are there, but maybe Luzardo's a little more polished. I'm looking for a number 2. I want the polished.
Right.
So to answer that, Yark, in a long way, I really don't know. I mean, I am going to be a little stubborn about this in saying You signed Rowdy Tellez. I don't care that you signed him for $3.2 million. Yeah. He has to play. If you're worried about him being healthy, that's a problem. Like, we shouldn't even be talking about that. What we should be saying is that you said, I got this guy, then he needs to pony up and play and be an adult and play 110 games.
Be an adult.
We're asking him to platoon.
Yeah.
If you can't ask somebody to platoon and give you 110 games against pitching that is going to be beneficial to your skill set, then don't even sign him in the first place. So this is like one of those weird little things where I'm going to be a little bit stubborn and I'm going to say, this is what we're relying on until they sign somebody else. And they could.
They could.
I doubt that's going to happen. I think they saved their money here and that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I think in a sense, I'm sitting here saying that's what it needs to be. It needs to be a straight platoon. Right field, I think, is going to be a spring training thing. I'm not totally sold that what we saw from Joshua Palacios last year is going to happen again. And I certainly am not saying that Joshua Palacios should have went into this offseason with a safe job.
Right.
I would have liked to have seen either a center fielder picked up and Jack Swinski in right, or just gone out and gotten a better right fielder.
Yeah. And I think Palacios, I think he's a good option. I like what he brings to the table majority of the time. I like that he has the knack for the big moments. I don't know. I don't think he should be your guy. Like, this is getting super excited about Joshua Palacios, but at the same time, I don't think he's a bad option. Like, I'm okay with Palacios. Like I said, I don't know. There's just something about him. I kind of like him.
Yeah, and that's fine. So let me look this up here just to say, because what we got, we saw some good, we saw some bad.
Oh yeah.
Overall negative, right? Overall 91 games. So straight platoon, which I don't think it would have to be straight platoon, because I think McCutchen could help out in some certain situations. This guy at 239 with an OPS plus of 86. It's well below average. He did have a flair for the dramatic. He did hit 10 home runs. Is he going to get better? A lot of times you say that. I am very bullish on Peguero's going to get better. Nick Gonzalez is going to get better. These guys are young. They're higher pedigree. They will get better. If they don't, then that happened, and that's fine. But the expectation is that they improve. Joshua Palacios is not on that list. You know what I'm saying? He's 28 years old. He's been let go. He's not on that list where there's a guarantee. He might be at his prime at an 86 OPS plus.
He might be. He also might be I'm going to use this term loosely.
Okay.
He might be like a Max Muncy. He might be a Justin Turner. You know, these guys that somebody else gave up on, the Dodgers pick them up. They turn out to be good players. Now, obviously, number-wise, I don't see him putting up the same numbers as those guys, but could still be a productive player later on in life. Not everybody comes up at 21 and 22 and they're there to stay.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I just, when I'm looking at that natural, do I expect him to improve? No, it's more like, well, if he's going to play, I sure hope he improves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I still am not convinced that Kanan Smith-Njigba can't come in and take it from him.
Well, I'm with you there.
And
I like Kanan Smith-Njigba a lot too.
I'm real indifferent there too, because, dude, the more I look at it, the more I'm like, gosh, can't we just, if Jack was in right field, man, we'd have a good defense out there. Like, that's the thing. Like, Jack is an above average defender in right field. He's average in center. None of these other guys are average. I mean, we just got all of ours, and it's like, oh, yeah, by the way, he stinks. And we're like, what? Well, he rakes against lefties. He's got a cannon for an arm, and he's super fast. He just has no idea where the ball's going when it was hit. I don't really know even how that works. How do you have two mega tools?
Did he play corner?
Yeah, he's only played corners. And he's super fast, and he's only played corner outfield, probably because it's so bad.
Throw him in center field. Maybe he gets a better read. Who knows? They've probably tried
I'm sure they've tried it, yeah.
But
and maybe the only reason he's in the corner is because his defense is bad.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a little bit of Kansas City's outfield is huge.
Yeah, but that can't be.
You know, PNC, right field is a trick anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Not many guys are going to play it really well. Everyone out there is going to look silly at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the nature of that right field. So does the gap actually close with a bad defender in right field? You know what I'm saying? Like, because he's like, yeah, he's bad, but so's everybody else.
Right.
So it kind of closes. He doesn't get worse.
Sure.
He's just as bad.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that gap can kind of close and you can kind of hide a guy in right field at PNC Park.
Yeah.
But that arm is invaluable because you knock a ball off the wall in the corner, you're not guaranteed a double if you've got a great arm. We saw Henry Davis shut a couple guys down.
Yeah.
And he was not good out there.
He had a cannon, though.
But he had a cannon. And so you're looking at the same sort of thing. It's like, well, he can probably be okay out there. When he goes out there and he starts making a bunch of mistakes, I'll be convinced he's bad. Otherwise, man, if he can hit lefties the way that he has, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. And the distance, I mean, Kansas City's big too.
Yeah.
And he hit most of his home runs at home. So the distance in left field in Pittsburgh, I don't think I'm too worried about if he's still going to be 5 rows deep. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm not too worried about that. I don't really know as far as numbers. It really, to me, it's going to depend on if Connor Joe gets traded.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think it's going to really shake some things up. And I think that you're probably saying that you're asking a lot from Jared Triolo and you're not sure what you're going to get yet. I mean, that we talked about the batting average on balls in play. That's not going to continue. It's going to even out a little bit. That's not saying he's also not going to improve.
Right.
He probably will. And so there's still something there. I certainly would like to give him a number of at-bats, not like what they did to Nick Gonzalez last year, who didn't get near enough at-bats.
Right.
So I think there's enough to go around.
Mm-hmm.
But my biggest concern right now, to be honest with you, is the left-handed bat in right field. Because I'm just not sure that those I wanted those two guys to go, like CSN and Palacios should be going for a bench role.
Yeah.
And instead we're talking about a platoon option in right field with two guys who are going to get the bulk. It'd be even a totally different world if we were saying this was the guy we were going to play against lefties.
Right.
So it makes it a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
And first base, once again, it's just what I'm saying. So as far as production, I don't know. Let's do what? Let's do the positives. What do you hope for? Tellez plays 110 games, hits 25 homers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? My goodness, could you imagine? It'd be hilarious if it even happened that way because it'd probably be more like he played like 90 games and got traded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if he's doing that well, we're probably dealing him.
Yeah.
If we're not in it. Now, granted, how many Arizona have last year? 84 wins.
Yeah.
So if you're flirting with 500, you're kind of in it anyway. So you might not be dealing him.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's where I'm at. Let's go ahead and let's stick with the theme here. Connor Joe. Michael from 412, our friend Michael from 412 Double Play. If Connor Joe remains with the Pirates in 24, what is the minimum fWAR needed for Jake to buy his jersey? This comes from last year. Yark, who asked the last question, made a bet with Jake that if he had a 2.5, I think it was.
I think that's what it was, yeah.
2.5 fWAR, Jake would have to buy a jersey of Connor Joe. Or it started off with a jersey and ended up being Jake said he would wear on every single episode in the offseason, mm-hmm. he would wear a shirt that said Connor Joe's my favorite player. And that's what he would wear for every podcast. He didn't have to do that because he didn't get to 2.5 fWAR. So we're talking about a jersey. If he's with the team, what's the number?
He's pretty much stick with it.
It's a 2.5
because he's in my opinion, he's either traded, not going to get enough at bats to get up to that number,
or too many at bats, and it's going to lower like it did last year.
Right. So yeah, we can stick with 2.5. Feel comfortable with that. And like I said, I'm not even as down on him as I was last year.
Right, that's true.
I just don't know if it's going to equal that.
This is a big thing, guys, because we're going to be critical of things that we think we want to be critical of.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, I mean, we're not afraid to be critical of moves that are made, of people that are signed. I don't think I'm very excited about the Tellez signing myself. Any of these guys, if they do well for my favorite team, they can win me over.
Yeah, they can change our minds.
So I think Connor Joe for Jake was like, by the end of the year, he's like, you know what? I don't hate when he's up to bat.
Right. For sure. I mean, like I said earlier, it's a professional bat every time he steps to the plate.
Yep. All right, let's go on to the next question here. We've got Gary Morgan, our friend Gary Morgan, who's also been on the show recently. If you could pluck one player from the entire NL Central contract and all knowing everything you know, make them a Pirate, who is it? Now, this one I actually had a little bit of fun looking around. So any of the teams, and you know, you can look around at the different teams and see, you know, who do you like, who do you don't like. Milwaukee, I know one guy said in the comments, Milwaukee was even like, is it crazy if I say Jackson Chourio? You know what I mean? It's like, he even said, I hope somebody would have the guts to say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, that might be good.
Yeah. I've seen him play a lot in Biloxi.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What do you got?
I mean, when that dude finds his barrel, it's like a freaking cannon goes off.
Really? It's a different sound.
It's a different sound.
Yeah. This is the number 2 overall prospect in baseball, guys.
He's no joke. I mean, he was playing Double-A at 19 years old. Bat sounded different. He's got a cannon. Just my only problem that I saw with him is it just seemed like he had an aura that he gave off that he was bigger than the team. So
is he in Double-A? Sure,
well,
but
he's not in Double-A anymore.
Well,
so
right.
He's already in Triple-A. He got moved up towards the end of the year.
Right.
But no, he
I
was
said
still
Jackson,
batting.
right? Okay.
He was still batting like the 200s. It's not like it was.
Right.
He wasn't just flat out raking. You know, I think he started the year off where he hit like 6 home runs in his first 15 games or something like that. It's just like rocket after rocket, and then it kind of cooled way down. He went to a big slump.
Yeah. So some of the numbers he finished in Biloxi: 280, 336, with an 803 OPS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He ended with, this was in 122 games. He ended with 23 doubles and 22 homers, 41 walks, 103 strikeouts, and 43 stolen bases.
Yeah, he's fast.
So this guy's got all the tools. Yeah. Position-wise, where was he playing?
I want to say he was playing mostly left field and center.
Okay.
I think he played mostly left and he played center as well.
So this is a guy that could come in and play center field.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looks like for Nashville, he only played 6 games. So small sample, but I mean, 333, 375, 851 OPS. I mean, it's nothing real big. He didn't hit a home run. But he was there for 6 games. So, as far as the Brewers go, I mean, he's the only guy on that team.
Yeah, and to throw this contract in there, he's already got an extension.
Yeah, to do all things, right? Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, and I'm being completely honest, I think he's the only player on the Brewers that I would say. I mean, unless you want Vinny Cap, I'm just kidding. He's just the only one. Bryce Wilson, Vinny Capra. I'm just kidding.
No, there's a
Willie Adames. I mean, the thing is like right now, O'Neal Cruz is our shortstop.
Right. Until he's actually plays his way off a shortstop, he's our shortstop.
So you're thinking pitching?
If he does. No, they have another outfielder that's really good.
Garrett Mitchell's been, Yelich.
Anderson, isn't there an Anderson, Brian Anderson or something like that?
No.
Okay. Anyway.
So anyway, yeah, that's for me.
It's probably
that's the guy for the Brewers.
Yep.
If I'm picking one, the Cardinals, I'm just not. I'll be honest with you, I'm just not. I mean, Paul Goldschmidt.
That's the only one I would do.
You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
Paul Goldschmidt would be an option. Man, I really like Dylan Carlson, but I don't think it's there yet.
Right.
And a lot of their guys, when they come up, they're really good. And they kind of, we're seeing that with Tyler O'Neill. We saw that with Harrison Bader. We saw maybe Dylan Carlson's going to start that. So you've got a couple, Tommy Edman a little bit, Paul DeYoung. You know what I'm saying? There's a little bit of a dip that you seem to always get from their players.
Right.
Where they come up and it's like, okay, but I'm not really convinced of what's his name? The huge tall guy, Walker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not convinced yet.
Jordan Walker.
And then you've got Brendan Donovan. You've got those kind of guys that's maybe interesting.
And Nolan Gorman.
Is kind of one of those, like, we don't really know yet.
Yeah.
I mean, he could blow up.
Right.
But we don't know yet. And quite frankly, we've got Key at third, so I don't care about Arenado.
Right.
Obviously, the home runs would be great, but
when
I'm looking...
he would come over here and play first base.
Oh, no, but I mean, maybe... Unless they just put Key at short, right? And then you're going right back to the same thing.
Right.
I struggle with the Cubs too. So I start off with, for me, Ian Happ.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good one.
Yeah.
I've looked through and I think, man, well, here's one thing you're getting from Ian Happ. First off, he's from the Pittsburgh area.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much you lean into that stuff because you run into the problem of David Bednar being on your team, being all about Pittsburgh. If it gets down to the time that you need to move him, it's not going to be a fan favorite move.
Right.
So you actually even mess around with Pittsburgh area natives, or do you just talk about them coming back? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what you know is we looked up the numbers for Ian Happ at one time when we were saying this guy's a Pirate killer. What we found out is he's an NL Central killer.
Right.
The whole NL Central.
Whole NL Central.
So yeah, I'm in on Ian Happ.
Mm-hmm.
He's won 2 Gold Gloves since he's moved full-time to left field, but he can still handle center. So I feel like you could just put him in center field, Jack and right. Let's roll, dude.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a pretty good fit.
Yeah.
As far as pitching, I mean, I just don't see anybody on these three. Maybe Sonny Gray. Pluck him from the Cardinals as soon as he got there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think there's a theme going here, and I think there's a reason why we waited. And I think because when we were talking before, it feels like the Reds have the guys that we would take.
Mm-hmm.
So who's your guy if you had to pick one? Now, we just did say a couple, so if that changed to Ian Happ after that conversation, that's fair.
Yeah. I mean, pitching is what we're hurting in. And that's what we need the most of. And you're looking for a number 2. Why not go to Cincinnati and take Hunter Green?
So one of the questions is, and I was going to play devil's advocate here, is I'm not sure that he is a number 2 right now. I think the stuff is there. It hasn't happened yet. And I think that the Reds are hitting a little bit of a panic button right now and thinking that, yeah, we've got all this young pitching, but without veteran leadership there, I don't know. And they went out and they got Nick Martinez, and now they just picked up, what's the guy's name? Frankie Montas. And so you're looking at those 2 guys, but I'm not sure those are the guys either. What those guys are a little bit of veteran presence there, but also movable.
Mm-hmm.
If they're young guys come to age, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah.
They're movable. And so maybe that was a smart move on their part doing that. But I mean, Hunter Green's got the stuff, man.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I like Lodolo out of that group the most, but then he may be struggled the most too. And so I don't really, well, as far as the health goes anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't really know, but for me, it's Matt McLean. He would be my guy. Because I could then use all that second base stuff to move guys around, and I'd trade him.
Yeah.
I'd trade from Peguero and Gonzalez. Keep Peguero maybe around because he's a little bit better at short than Gonzalez. Maybe you trade high on Gonzalez if you can. It doesn't seem like they're going to give him a shot in Pittsburgh anyway, so give him one somewhere else. I don't know what to, you know what I mean? I don't know what else to say, but Matt McClain, I mean, he did it. He even struggled last year and his numbers were still good.
Mm-hmm.
And he's young and he can play short. He can play second. I don't think we've seen him much at third because they'd always had a guy they moved to third. But now you've got a true backup for O'Neal Cruz.
Yeah.
If Cruz is okay with moving to center field, oh my gosh, let's not even talk about that. You know what I'm saying? You talk about getting that speed out there and that arm out in center field, and Matt McClain becomes your shortstop. If I was to pluck a guy, honestly, it might be Matt McClain.
That's fair.
I think it'd be a lot of fun to see De La Cruz come over too.
Sure.
And put De La Cruz out in the outfield and then just say, like, we have them both now.
Right.
That'd be fun. But no, for me, that's where I would go. I think I'd go Matt McClain. I think he'd be the one guy.
Yeah.
Young, just came up, right? So, maybe there's a little struggle in there. Maybe not. I mean, this guy went straight through.
Yeah.
So it is weird that, like, I'm just not impressed with a lot of the pitching across the NL Central.
Yeah.
And so, not that I'm like dying to take. Like, the young guys there are good. We've got young guys too.
We do.
They're just not quite there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's also the fact that, like, I am at the position now where these pitchers are getting hurt so often. I just want to bolster my offense. The first things first, let's score runs. We'll deal with our pitching staff later. That's what Baltimore seemed to do.
Yeah.
And it seems to be working. Now, if they're serious, they got to go out and do something about their starting rotation.
Mm-hmm.
But their offense is set. They got nothing to worry about.
Right.
Me personally, I think I'm like, let's score some runs. And then let's have some fun. And then let's figure out what we need to do on the pitching side. Because you almost need 10 starters anymore because they're all going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Completely made of glass. That was a fun exercise, though. I actually like that.
Yeah.
So let's take our last question here. Is there any player in the Pirates organization right now, in your eyes, poised to have a monster year? Defensively, offensively, pitching, or a combination? Like, whatever it is. Is there any player in the Pirates organization right now? Now, this is not just at the MLB level. And this comes from Seth Johnson. Poised to have a monster year. And this was our last question. and then we'll get out of here.
That's kind of a tough one for me. Because I will say the person that is, and you know what? I'm gonna be the one to say it. Henry Davis. He's gonna show everybody in Pittsburgh that he can catch, that he can be a serviceable catcher, and because he just gets to relax and catch, his offense blows up.
I think offensively you should see something better from him this year anyway. But yeah, I mean, last year he's learning right field and still working on catching every day. There was a lot. If I was Henry Davis, I would have done a lot of work in right field this offseason, as well as catching, because I could have.
Right.
You don't want to be doing all that stuff during the season. He should have been working on it. Maybe even fielding balls at first base, even though I would hate to put that arm at first. Especially considering that maybe blocking the ball is not his strong suit. So I don't know how well that translates to first base anyway. But either way, his bat needs to be in the lineup. He needs to hit.
Yeah.
I think that's a good call. I think that's good. He's almost has to. He doesn't quite have to, but he almost has to. In order for us to be really good, he has to.
I do like the fact that he has to do it.
Yeah,
no matter
I do
what,
too.
he's got to do it. We're going to find out whether he's a catcher or whether he needs to move.
Well, I think when you draw, you look for silver linings and all the dark clouds and all those things, right? Obviously, Andy Rodriguez being hurt is a bad thing. The good thing is you have a year now. I think that this needs to be defining year. He's either a catcher or he's not. And we should find out by the end of 2024.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. For me, I told you before we started, or in the middle of this thing, that I'm kind of high on Bubba Chandler right now. And I think that might be it. I mean, I think when they told him to put the bat down, he kind of took off a little bit, and he still struggled a little here and there. But man, if he gets that, if things click a little more the second year working only on pitching, I think he could be really special and somebody that you could be looking at, we think we know, but my goodness, could you imagine in 25, 26, we're looking at Skeens, Jared Jones, Bubba Chandler, Mitch Keller, maybe if there's an extension in the play. Holy cow. Like you're starting, is Quinn Priester in that mix? Is, any of these other number of guys? Is Solomito probably, maybe, I don't know. How many of these guys are in the mix there? If we trade for a guy like Luzardo, he would still be around. And you start to say like, this could be scary.
Right.
This could be a strength of this team at that point. If that all happens. Now, there was a lot of names there. Only 5 of them, 6 of them maybe have to actually work.
Right.
So there's a lot of upside that could still be there when you really think about it and start to say, like, if I can only name 5, that's probably not good enough. But we can name more than that.
Right.
And that's a good thing. I think I'm going to go with Bubba Chandler. I think he's going to turn a lot of heads. I think he's going to say, all right, this guy actually might debut this year at the end of the year. You know what I'm saying? He's already AA. I could see him move to AAA this year, and I could see him 2025. He's on this team. I mean, I'm not making claims that he's there opening day. I still think you need to make sure that he's not getting injured. I think it's going to be very important that they realize that we have to step up our innings, not just go to 177 2/3 and have a guy have to get Tommy John.
Right.
That was pretty specific, but. Anyway, it's cold down here. We've got family upstairs, and it is our time. So that's all we're going to have for today. I think I can play this stuff on the Roadcaster here. I will say right before we get out, Pirates Fest this weekend.
Is it the weekend?
Yeah, because like this goes out Monday, the 1st, and it's the 6th.
Yep.
So it's coming up this weekend. So if you're going to be at Pirate Fest, hit me up on the Bridge to Buctober Twitter. Because I will be going, and a lot of our family's going.
Yeah.
But I'll be there. You'll obviously be back home down south, so you won't be there. But yeah, I'll be there. So hit me up, and then we'll figure something out. But this was a good time. Good to be. It's fun. It's like it's good to sit in the same room and do this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's almost impossible to do anything without technical difficulties. So hopefully there's video. If not, it's a podcast after all.
Right.
Glad you guys are listening. Let's go Bucs.
Yeah, let's go Bucs.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucs.